Mr. Rod, welcome to Alex's Audio.
All right, Alex, how do you? I thought your last name was Padilla.
It's Padilla, I know. Everybody already knows.
Okay.
This goes to my friends and family and anyone bored enough to watch my stuff.
That's a lot of people.
That's like 4 people.
Like 4 people. Okay, well, I'll be number 5 then. Okay.
Not including the boys, but
All right.
I hope this goes okay. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. It honestly means a lot to me. Usually I like to have my guests, introduce themselves. If you don't mind, could you tell the audience who you are and what you do?
I'm Mr. Lawrence Rodriguez, Mr. Rod. I teach U.S. and World History at St. Monica Catholic High School. This is my 33rd year here, 43 years as a teacher when I first started.
Wow. 43 years
33
teaching.
here and 43 years ago is when I first started.
That's incredible. Well, why don't we start at the top? Where did you start teaching, Mr. Rod? Or maybe better yet, why did you start teaching?
Well, I always wanted to be a baseball player, but when you sit on the bench in high school, the chances of being a baseball player are pretty remote. So I thought, well, maybe I want to go into law. I thought about being a cop, but my dad didn't want me to be a cop. And so at college, I was at SMC, I realized, maybe I want to teach. I had a Verge senior, and everybody in Santa Monica, whoever went to SMC, knows Dr. Verge. His family, all his kids went to St. Monica's Grammar and High School, and he's an institution in Santa Monica, and he inspired a lot of us to become teachers at SMC. And he taught a couple of great classes related to the history of Latin America, and exposed a lot of us Chicanos from Santa Monica and West LA to things we weren't exposed to before. And so I realized how fortunate I was getting a Catholic school education, and my parents working hard and putting us through school and giving us opportunities that a lot of other Chicanos didn't have, or even some of my cousins didn't have that opportunity. So I felt I needed to give back, and I think my 2 brothers and I always felt that sense of gratitude and sense of needing to give back. And so when I transferred to Northridge, I realized I wanted to do something related to being a Mexican American Chicano, and we had a Chicano Studies program, and I was blessed to be with to be a student of some of the most foremost teachers at that time in Chicano Studies, and in the Chicano movement. It was a great education, outstanding teachers, really enlightening environment, and I did my student teaching at a couple schools in the valley, and unfortunately, when I graduated, there was a freeze, so I couldn't get a job. So I was working at the largest antique store in the world. It was over there at Helms Bakery.
Wow.
It was called the Antique Guild, and they had a chain of about 5 or 6 stores. After that was the headquarters, and I had it was a lot of fun. It was a great job. I learned how to do carpentry, drywall, tile, paint, and do all that great stuff. My dad had showed us some things when we were kids, but I really learned a lot there. And it was a great environment, and my mom and dad kept telling me, keep on applying. I would check in, and there were no openings. And so my mom was a cafeteria worker at Orville Wright Junior High up in Westchester.
Cool.
And my mom was a very attractive woman and very warm and loving, and the kids loved her. And the teachers there really liked my mom. She was very engaging, very friendly. So she told me that the principal, Mr. Case, kept saying to tell him to give me a call. So I go, oh, sure, Mom. So ultimately, 2 years after I finished college, I just, I made the effort and called and made an appointment, got my suit, got my resume ready, and walked in, and there's my mom sitting there in the principal's office, my first professional interview. I give him my resume, I've got my coat and tie on, and there's my mom. It was like,
How old were you at the time?
I was 20. I was about 24, maybe. I was about 24. Yeah, about that time, 24, 25, maybe 25, maybe 25.
Yeah.
So, and I got a job as a long-term sub, and I wanted to teach in East LA, but they had nothing available for me. So they said I could teach the West Side, or I could teach in South Central. I go, send me to South Central.
Oh, all right.
And I wanted to go to where the action was.
But you had a good time down there.
Wow, it was a real eye opener, very enlightening. I learned a lot of skills about how to teach the kids that don't want to be taught, how to handle kids who may be belligerent, how to diffuse situations. I learned a lot. And at the end of the first year, I was kind of disillusioned. I mean, I learned a lot. I was all over. I was at Dorsey, Crenshaw, Locke, Jefferson, Manual Arts.
Wow.
I did Garfield and Belmont, Lincoln, Wilson. I was at Washington Prep as well. I did a lot of middle school as well. Hart, Bethune, a couple other schools like that, Hoover, Edison, and it was a different experience. I mean, when I was a kid, we lived in the projects over in Mar Vista for a couple of years. So you learn some skills, and going to school and living in Venice, you figure out some skills too about to survive. But
Yeah.
it was a different atmosphere, and there was a lot of good kids, a lot of great kids that were really victims of some really rough situations.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I quit teaching for 10 years. I had a business.
What was the business?
It was we had a franchise with a company called Milk and Expediting. So we had the LA franchise. It was like, we predated FedEx.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this last time.
Yeah, we predated
Man.
FedEx. And so there was about
You were that close.
There was about 15 franchises in the country, and then we had a small private independent company we were affiliated with.
Yeah.
So we were shipping things out, bundling them, packaging them in bundles, and charging every customer the same rate, and that's how you made your profit, you know.
Absolutely.
And then shipping them out to another city and delivering them. So I did that for 10 years, and it enabled me to have a flexible schedule. I played a lot of tennis, paddle tennis.
Nice.
I could set my hours. I had workers working for me, and I had a couple of people really. And so I had that for 10 years, and I was coaching my niece and her friend at North Venice Little League for a couple of years. And then when she came to St. Monica's, she said they needed a coach. Like, I'm a Little League coach. You want a professional.
Yeah.
Then sophomore year, there were a couple other girls who were there now, and they called me Larry then. They go, Larry, we need you to coach. I go, no, you need a real coach, a professional. Because no, they had a dad do it last year. I go, really? I go, yeah. So I called up, made an appointment, and I came in to meet with the athletic director. It was Mr. Leo Clem. Okay, and so he went through my resume, and we talked, and then he went over to talk to Father Brailsford, the principal, and they talked, so then they called me in.
My dad's always talking about Father Brailsford. I think
Father Brailsford? Yeah.
He has a very, very great story about him going in after leaving, getting kicked out of his class.
Oh,
and
really?
He decided not to skip school. So he sat down outside because he just got in like an argument with the teacher and he couldn't deal with it. So he sat there and he just waited for class to be over. I think he was 13 or 14 when this happened.
Okay.
And Father Brailsford comes walking by and he sees him out there and he takes one look at him and he just goes. And he takes my dad, brings him to his office, sits him down in the chair, doesn't say a word to him for the entire 40 or 45 minutes he's there. And then once the bell rings, he says, get up. And he sends him to the next class, which is incredible. If that would have happened to me, we don't have to get into my history here. I only got in trouble 1 or 2 times for things of similar natures.
Right.
But yeah, legendary.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up coming back to teaching.
Yeah.
So it's through softball, and I was losing money coaching, and because I was paying drivers to cover my route so I could coach.
Yeah.
It was costing me about $300 a week to get off. And my mom and dad were going, "What's happening to your business?" And I go, "Oh, it's doing okay." And kind of stagnated, but I had a lot of fun coaching it was my cousin, my niece, and my friend's daughter. And I really liked it. I had no nephews to coach baseball.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up with softball. and I started here, so they hired me in March of 86 as a softball coach. And, he saw, I had my credential, and he saw that I had taught. So he said, "You're interested in teaching?" Well, I thought about it, but I didn't think it'd be worth my time, or I forgot what I said. He says, "Well, why don't we talk about it at the end of the season?" I said, "Okay." So it gave me time to realize I really like this. And so I told my wife, "What do you think?" She said, "Why don't you give it a try?" I said, "All right." So she backed me up. So that was September of '86. I started my first year as a teacher here.
Was the plan to keep the business on the side and have it run itself?
Well, the plan was my brother-in-law, who was one of my drivers. I had him take over the business, and then I would operate it in the evenings. If we had late, because we were getting called to, at quarter end. I spent 24 hours at the airport. I'd sleep in my car, because back in those days we had pagers, and the pager would go off, and I'd see I had a pickup or something coming in on United Airlines, and it was going to Newport Beach or something like that.
Yeah.
And so my brother-in-law took over while I was teaching, and then after work I'd check in, and I was on call. On weekends I was on call, and then for a while there I didn't teach summer school. I worked the business in the summertime.
Right.
And that went on for a couple of years, and then got to be a little bit too much for me, and so we just let it go. I mean, we were competing with a lot of our clients were going online now. They didn't always need everything shipped.
Yeah.
The post office came out with Priority Parcel Express, or Priority Parcel, and that really cut into our profit margin. So, our accounts were getting smaller and smaller, and so ultimately, it just kind of died a slow, painful, not a painful, but painless death.
Yeah, it just kind of faded a little bit.
Kind of faded, and we could have gone. The last year and a half, we were kind of exclusive to a couple of companies as their private careers, and we were doing some other things with filings. We had a friend who was a lawyer, and so whenever they needed legal filings, we took care of that. We'd take it downtown and file it, and so we got some more accounts like that, and it was a lot of fun. In all honesty, I mean, my hours were my own. I mean, I could get up in the morning, go to the gym, work out, play some paddle tennis, then take off and do my first 3 hours of routes, and then come back and play another 4 hours of paddle tennis, and then go out.
You sure
and
did like
finish
paddle
out.
tennis, huh?
Yeah, we were into paddle tennis big time. It was a lot of
Isn't
fun.
paddle tennis just ping pong?
No.
What's the difference?
It's faster than. It's a very fast sport.
Okay.
And it's really played at the net, and it's a lot of fun. And you play on a smaller court than the tennis court.
So it's shorter space to cover, but faster game.
Faster game, yeah. And it was a lot of fun. We played in tournaments and over here at the beach in Venice, and then Culver City and a couple other places. So, and we had our own tournaments too. So it was fun.
That sounds like a great time. I'd love to
Yeah.
play paddleball sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometime. Excuse me. I love racquetball.
Well, when I first started teaching here, they had paddle tennis paddles, and they had a ton of nets and stuff and pipe for tennis and paddle tennis here. And so paddle tennis, I think, was more like a PE class, and there was an actual PE class for tennis as well. But when I started, it kind of died out. There wasn't anyone to teach tennis. So.
Okay. When did Mr. Bruce come here to start teaching tennis?
Well, Mr. Bruce
He's the
came,
dominant tennis force in this place.
He started here the year my son was a freshman, so that would have been like he graduated. That was That would have been the fall of 2002
Oh, okay.
is when he started.
So your legacy was already cemented here by the time he showed up.
Probably starting. And then he started. Then a few years later, he got tennis started up, and right now he's coaching girls basketball. You know, he's won state championships.
He coaches my little sister.
Yeah, he does, and he won state championships when he was in Texas. I mean, not just local, but I mean state in Texas. And
That's
so
pretty badass.
he's got
Texas?
he's got kids that went D1, a number of kids. So he does a great job with the girls team right now. And the reason he coaches because it's hard to find people that really support girl sports. I mean, the girls, hopefully their parents do, not always. Sometimes, dad or mom, oh, she's just playing. They just think of it as PE.
Meanwhile,
Other time,
football. Boys gotta be at football at 6 a.m.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
2-3 practices a day.
Well, we would run. I mean, we would run conditioning and practices in the fall. And in fact, the basketball team, the football team, and the softball team were the only teams that had programs in off seasons and during the summer.
Oh yeah.
Baseball didn't even have an off season, so it was basketball and us who ran in the summer.
Yeah.
And so we set up a league with the Culver City coach, John Sargent, Beverly Hills, Len Mitchell, and then we got a couple other teams. Sometimes Lusinger joined in, Hawthorne, a couple other schools. And so we had between 4 to about 6 teams playing. At one point, when I first started out, I started the week before the actual season started. There were only 8 games for the girls, and we were getting smacked around. Brutal. It was horrible.
I remember my freshman year of baseball.
Yeah,
0-20.
Well, we were in 0-8. I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
even schedule us 20 games because it was a girls' thing, and it was late for me to schedule games. So following year, I scheduled a few more games. I didn't know how exactly that was to roll around, but I scheduled about 5 games, and then I found out, well, you can schedule up to 20 games. Well, you can have no more than 20. But if you play in tournaments, that's the bonus.
That's the bonus, huh?
That's the bonus because you play a lot more, but it only counts for a game and a half or something like that. I forget what it is.
Right.
Or each tournament counts for 2 games, I believe.
Okay.
And so, if you had a 15-game season, you schedule yourself a practice game with someone, and then you schedule yourself in 2 tournaments. And if you played 4 games, you might get 24, 25 games in.
Damn, that's a lot. That's a lot more training time. It's a lot more time in the field.
And that's
on
what
the court.
started turning it around. I mean, we did more in the fall. After a while, the girls didn't really want to do conditioning, so I had footballs.
Of course, they didn't want to.
And I have them throwing footballs because if they throw the football, they gotta throw it overhand and they gotta release it.
Oh yeah.
So I had them throwing footballs. I had them playing one-on-one after a while. Nice. So one girl would defend another girl, and I'd tell her what route she's gonna run. I'd tell her, you know what, you count to 3, you juke her to the left, and you turn right, and I hit you. And I used a Nerf ball. Okay. And the girls really got competitive. Oh, they loved it. They loved it. And then I would have one receiver with 2 defenders, and it was fun. The girls wanted to form a powder puff team. Can we do that? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Just don't tell the administration about it.
Yeah, but the class of '91 or '92 was my first really good team. We could play with anybody.
How many years in was that?
That was like '91, '92.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I started in '86. So 86, 87, 88, 89. You know what? By 89, we were competitive. 88, 89, we were competitive. But,
so you built that program from scratch, basically.
Well, we had no JV team. So I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story. So I tried to get a JV team up, and I wasn't allowed to. They said there was no money in the budget for it. And I knew the only way I was going to grow was with a JV team. And because I taught all the freshmen, I could hustle out. So I got like 35, 36 girls out there.
Recruiting daily.
And I realized I need to do something. So I kept about 16 girls on varsity, 16 and 17 girls on varsity, because between grades, not being able to handle the rigor of the workouts, illness, things like that, I was always getting down to around 13 or 14. And so
That's barely enough to play.
yeah, and so I had to carry 16 or 17, and then I had to find a way to get them into a game eventually at some point. But the girls after 13 were probably only there because I needed a warm body.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of them turned into really good ball players because they had the heart and the desire to be better, and they became a part of the heart and soul of the team. And so what I did that one year is I kept 22 girls, and I created a JV team. And I had about 4 or 5 girls on the JV team who played softball, but they weren't ready for varsity.
Okay.
So I had them work with the varsity on all the drills that we ran. And I made them squad leaders. So there was 4 squad leaders on the JV. We had 1 diamond and a fence between us and the rest of the field.
Yeah.
So I would get the squad leaders to get the JV players doing their agilities and their warm-ups and throwing while I got the varsity going.
Wow.
And I'd run some quick drills with the varsity. I put the captains in charge, and then there were 2 other squad leaders on the varsity. Mm-hmm. So they'd be running their drills. I go around, I work with the JV. So I did that. And then because I was athletic director, I could have checks made, but I couldn't afford, I couldn't rent a bus to do away games. So the JV played their games on the days the varsity didn't have a game.
Okay.
And so
you shared the bus.
they shared the bus, and they wouldn't change until they would get on the bus, and they wouldn't change because we couldn't broadcast to anybody that there was a JV game going on.
Oh, so they had to sneak onto the bus after school and go to a game?
Yeah. They never got pictures or anything taken those first 2 years.
Oh my God, that's great.
And so
Stealth
there,
team.
everybody was coming to our field to play us, and they first played about 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
The following year I had them playing like 12 games. And then I told Leo Clem, said, I really want to have a JV team. And he said, okay, well, let's talk to Sister Cheryl. And I was paying for a lot of extra stuff out of my pocket, but we started doing fundraising, and it really covered. I got brand new uniforms for the varsity, so the JV got the varsity uniforms and varsity equipment. Mm-hmm. Catching gear, I replaced it because they needed to have their own catching gear.
Yeah.
Bats, they weren't that good, so having old bats wasn't an issue for them because it didn't matter how good a bat was. They weren't ready for anything like that.
There's still there were metal bats back in the day. Still.
Well, we had aluminum bats.
Aluminum, yeah.
But not like the bats they have today. I mean,
well, they would have the flexi-grip.
We had a lot
bat it rotates.
The flex, the carbon fiber.
Oh my God.
So we had
Little League bats.
we had wooden bats and we had aluminum bats. And the first expensive bat I bought was an Easton, and it was made with Scandia aluminum. It came from. Yeah, it came from Scandinavia or Russia or so. Some component made it lighter and stronger, and it cost like $150. I'm like, $150 for a bat. Nowadays, it's like you're talking 3 to 4 for a good bat.
If you want an okay bat, you want to. Oh man, that carbon fiber ain't cheap.
It's not cheap. So, anyways, we go into the meeting with the principal, and we're running through different things. I talked to her and I said, I want to talk to you about a JV program for the softball team. And she said, she says, why do you want to do that? She said, well, because we're not going to be competitive if we don't have a JV team that feeds us. And every team has a JV team. The varsity football has a JV team. Baseball is a JV team. Volleyball, girls volleyball is a JV. Girls basketball is a JV team.
Yep.
Everybody but softball. And we're not going to get much better if we don't have a JV team. She said, well, do you even have a demand for it? Yeah, we do. She says, how do you know that? Because I've been running a JV team for 2 years. She says, what? So I had to fess up. And then she goes to Leo, were you aware of this? And he goes, yeah, I was. I condoned it. And so she was upset. But I got the financing. I got a coach in there. Mm-hmm. And any other coaches that I wanted had to come out of my salary. Oof. So when I was starting to make good money as a coach, I also realized I had to invest in my coaching staff.
Right.
So my assistant for a long time came out of my salary, and the JV coach came out of my salary.
Damn, you really cared, Mr. Rod.
I hate losing, and I hate not doing things right. And so my JV coaches
championship mentality
were preparing. Yeah, they were preparing. I was getting better and better girls from JV. Mm-hmm. And I can't expect brand new girls to show up and take us to the championship. I had to grow my own. And so and the girls understood how we played and our philosophy, and and we were always competitive. So I mean, we went to the playoffs. We were in playoffs probably about 20 times out of 27 years, but the first few years were ugly.
20 times out of 27.
Well, I mean,
that's pretty
that doesn't
damn
mean
good.
I'm not saying we won those games. No. There were about 3 or 4 years where we lost a coin flip when we were tied for first, and we ended up second. A couple other times we were tied for second, right? Yeah. And we lost a flip, and so. But we had some great teams, and we had girls that went on to play in college, but a lot of them didn't see the point, not like boys do. A boy sees an opportunity to play college, he's going to jump at it. But girls, a little more pragmatic about that, but some of them too pragmatic. There's a lot of girls that really could have played D1 ball. The thing is they needed to play travel ball. And they were going to Catholic school. How could they afford to pay that kind of money?
Yeah.
A lot of the girls that played D1 ball were going to public school, so mom and dad had the money to invest, especially when men getting a scholarship. Mm-hmm. So we were always competitive. I mean, I taught the girls to play the way I would, the way a baseball team would play. I mean, you put a tag on them, you put a tag on them hard.
Oh yeah.
You know, you don't be gentle. You know, girl's in your way, you run through her. You have to.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you get tagged out. And when you go into second base, you got to go in. You got to go in hard. You got to go in hard. Do it.
You need to instill that toughness in them.
Well, I did, but I didn't want them to play dirty. I mean,
I dirty and tough for two different things.
I had a lot of girls that like to do a pop up, and they like to bump the other girl, and I'll tell them, look, you know
it's
what?
It's not basketball.
No, it's not. But I had some girls that they didn't mind a little contact, and so when rules changed, you know, you had to slide, and if you popped up and made contact, you're automatically out. So I made sure girls were aware of that. And
like cause a lot more injuries that way.
Well, you know, there weren't that many injuries to begin with. I mean, the injuries I had, my team experienced were basically soccer players who blew out their knee before they came to us. My shortstop,
of course,
blew out her knee playing soccer. And so she was playing the next 2 years with a brace on.
The next 2 years?
Yeah. Oh. And the first team I had that was really good, my shortstop had been injured in a game against Bell Jeff, and Bell Jeff had a girl who was going to UCLA, and she was throwing BBs, but we had a pitching machine, and we had a couple other toys that we worked with, so we were able to hit her, and we had her going, and we were up on them 2-1, and my shortstop came back. She was clear to come back. She missed most of the season. She was clear to come back to play the playoff game. And she goes to second base. We're trying to double play, and this pitcher's about 6'2".
Oh,
all right? And she goes in there hard, takes out my shortstop. He makes the throw. We get the double play, but she's done. She was done. So we go to the we go to the playoffs with a backup playing short, and a backup. So whenever you move someone around, you got a backup in that other position all the way around.
You got two backups on the field.
And so we played. It was La Serena over in near the Thousand Oaks area, and we were up on them. And my center fielder never made an error, and there was a runner on second base who was going on the hit, right?
Stealing for third.
And so she was about to take third and going to score. So my center fielder comes running up, does this, but comes up without the ball. So she turns around, the ball rolls all the way back to the ivy. She comes back. They relay it, they get the batter out, but the run scored.
Yeah.
So now we're tied 2-2. And they come back. We end up losing that game 5-2.
Oh,
and it was
one play.
One play.
That domino effect.
It was
it's
painful.
Real.
It was painful. The girl felt terrible. They go, hey, you know what? It's part of the game. And everybody patted her on the back, and we said, hey, man, you know, they're really good about supporting each other. Really good about supporting each other and having each other's back. And so I didn't want them picking on or not vilifying anybody or going, it's her fault. No, it's not. You know, you can't do that. It's part of the game. You're going to make a mistake. You can't blame that one kid. Yeah. Had you gotten a hit instead of flying out, maybe it would have changed everything.
Exactly.
So, you know, or maybe if you'd have thrown one more strike, or maybe if you'd have stolen when I told you to steal and you hesitated and were thrown out. So I spoke to them in general terms. I never wanted to pick on anybody unless
You can't do that to a kid, especially a young girl.
No.
That's-
Well,
they're not.
they're tougher than you think.
Okay, all right, fair
They're
enough.
tougher than you think.
My dad seems to think that I can't say anything critical of my little sister because she's a girl and she can't take it. I'm like come on, Dad. She's tougher than I am.
I mean, if you want to help her, fine, but you don't want to minimize her.
No, of course not.
And so
Absolutely.
And so you want to make sure she knows that you're trying to help her
Yeah.
and that you mean it in all the best ways.
Earlier today, I got contracted to help dance in her waltz and for her quinceañera.
Oh,
coming
that's
up next
cool.
week. Yeah.
You're gonna be a quinceañera, huh?
I am. I'm like the
that's
lead.
that's a big honor, man.
That's what my dad keeps telling me. That's
No,
what
it
everybody keeps telling me.
it is. And you know what? Years from now, when you guys are gray-haired, I'll still be here, by the way.
Yeah, I believe it.
You guys will talk about it.
Your brain will be in a computer, and you're still going to be teaching
Yeah.
world history out here.
I'll be like the Terminator.